Welcome to the Cozy Little Library today with your Clean Reads book buddy. And today we have twinkly lights and we have 19 clean, cozy books for you to cuddle up with this coming season. We have Christian fiction, we have classics, and we have middle grade so that you can get excited about cozying up with great books.
Comfy, cozy.
Let's get going. Let's come sit over here by the fireplace and start talking about the Christian fiction, the first 7 historical and 1 contemporary. The Secret of Pembroke Park by Julie Klassen, who to me right now is the queen of Christian Regency romance. This book was unputdownable to me. I could not quit reading. I think I read it in 24 hours or so. Really get to know the characters in here. So there's a family living in London and the daughters are doing the social scene. That's not really going like they want. Dad makes a business deal that goes bad. An anonymous letter comes saying, will you please come live at my enormous manor for a year? And oh yeah, no one has been there for 18 years. When they get there, that's when the creepiness starts. It is as if the people living there got up in the middle of what they were doing and rushed away. Super creepy, all kind of mystery, and you're like, what in the world is going on? But it's so good. The Bridge to Belle Island by Julie Klassen. Again, can we just talk about this beautiful cover though? Her covers are the best. This one is interesting because Isabel, who is on Belle Island, a little ways from London, but she hasn't left in a decade. You find out in the book why. There is a crime in London that happens that connects Isabel and people on the island. A handsome lawyer has to come to the island to investigate, and then something else happens. And the book, like the cover, is very atmospheric, very interesting, pretty small character list. They're all kind of staying there at Isabel's. If you like all the whodunits, this one is very good. And the last Julie Klassen, I promise, is The Tutor's Daughter. Again, gorgeous cover. The father-daughter duo are asked to come to the cliffs of Cornwall to teach two young men that happen to have 2 older brothers that are eligible bachelors, and they're in this massive estate. Creepy things are always happening, unexplainable sounds at night. The pianoforte is being played, and when she gets there, nobody's at the piano. So much mystery. The spooky vibes in a good way are there. A little bit of mental illness situation and a lot of talk about grief. Such an atmospheric book. I mean, you just feel like you're there. The character list is very small, so you really get to know the characters. It is perfection. These are the first 2 books in the Houses of Yorkshire series. In our first book, The Letter from Briarton Park, our main character has resigned herself. She'll never really know who her parents are. The lady who has raised her says, I've been keeping a secret from you all these years, but here, this letter will explain it all. And it's a letter from Briarton Park. It happens in autumn, atmospheric, the grounds, the estate. And this one is kind of characterized as being a swoon-worthy romance of Jane Austen meets the suspense of Charlotte Bronte. Book number 2, In the Shelter of Hollythorn House, is about a young woman. Things happen right at the beginning of the story that make her future uncertain. She's not sure what to do. She ends up having to escape to Hollythorn House. The atmosphere around the house, it's on the moors and it's in autumn. Feel like you're there in the midst of the story. There's some danger. It's known as a beautiful tale of lost love finding the strength again when all hope seems lost. A very small character list. Very good. The Debutante's Code. This is book number 1 in the Thorndyke and Swan Regency Mysteries by Erica Vitch. This is about our main character who is very smart, very brave. She's a debutante in a wealthy family. So when it comes time for her to do the debutante thing, her parents are missing. They're nowhere to be found. So she's upset about that, feeling like they can't even bother to show up for her stuff that's so important. Her uncle is there, and he's really a character and acting super weird, weirder than usual. But what she doesn't know is that her parents are doubling as spies for the crown. It's a neat perspective throughout that you get to know what her parents are kind of up to, and she doesn't know there is a crime. But as it goes on, it's more about her trying to solve mysteries, solve codes and secrets, and it just kind of has a darker feel to it. The Gilded Curse by Marilyn Turk, a spooky island where our main character used to go with her mom, dad, and her brother, but some things happen she doesn't really understand. There are some secrets. Her dad passed away. Her mom is now in a mental place. She's had to put her there, and her mom will say things like the island is cursed and it's cursed our family. She loses her brother to Pearl Harbor. She is called mysteriously back to this island to come take care of some things. And when she gets there, her best friend's brother is there. And now he knows all about the secrets of her family. All kind of mystery, all kind of things go on. It's very vintage. It's very unique and very interesting. Between the Sound and Sea by Amanda Cox. This is about a lighthouse that has a lot of World War II history that's very mysterious. There's a legend about the lighthouse keeper and his daughter. They both went missing. A girl is having some issues in her town. She just needs to get away. So her best friend talks her into accepting a job restoring this lighthouse on this island far away from where she came from. And everybody thinks that the daughter is haunting the lighthouse and the island, and there's lots of crazy things that go on. Very atmospheric, little tiny bit spooky with the lighthouse, but it's so sweet, so good. It's another day. Let's talk about our middle grades. We're going to start with The Hidden Staircase, Nancy Drew, book number 2. I really enjoyed this one because it's a little bit of a spookier mystery, but Nancy's friend Helen asks her to come and stay with Helen's aunt because there are some unexplainable things going on, like untraceable music, creaks in the night, furniture moving on its own. Is it a ghost? Is it not?
It's a ghost!
All the nostalgia, all the fun of this quick and easy read. Really loved it. The Witch of Blackbird Pond by Elizabeth George Spear. This is an award winner, and it's about Kit, who becomes an orphan and has to leave her beloved Caribbean island home and go to her Puritan relatives in the cold, bleak Connecticut colony. She says that she feels like a caged bird that doesn't fit in, that's lonely. The only time she feels like herself is when she befriends the old Quaker woman that everyone calls the Witch of Blackbird Pond. In hanging out with that lady, she ends up being accused of being a witch as well. Very interesting read. Also, we have Tom's Midnight Garden by Philippa Pierce. This is also an award winner. It has the Secret Garden vibes. His brother gets the measles and he is sent off to his aunt and uncle's house. He's not happy about it. He thinks the next few weeks are going to be the most boring of his entire life, but he tries to go to sleep. And he's listening to the grandfather clock and realizes chimed on the 13th hour. So he goes investigating out in the backyard. This says he has found a secret place in time. Very calm read. I just love the vibes, and I hope you enjoy it too. Yet another day. We're going to talk about classics today, 8 of them to cozy up with. Let's think about King Arthur, Knights of the Round Table, King Arthur and his Knights as an option. For people who like fantasy and like swords and dragons and kingdoms and all of that, this was written in 1902, so what I'm calling a more modern version, and it's just a simpler storyline. This is a Barnes & Noble edition that I bought to take to our local library. I told y'all that we've been getting books and donating them to our local library that our son loved as part of his legacy, and knowing that other kids maybe would get a hold of a really cool book like this and it would cause them to love reading like he did, then that would be a great legacy. So this is his version. the Barnes & Noble edition that is gorgeous. But now the Sir Thomas Malory is more of the original. The text is actually from the 1400s, but it is in Old English font, Old English style of writing. So it's not the easiest thing to read. But if you're a traditionalist like me and you want to read the original, there you go. I wanted to give you the idea of reading Sherlock Holmes during this time. I just have an old Reader's Digest with other novels in here. This just has a few short stories, I think about 5. So Sherlock Holmes, of course, a beloved fictional detective from London. I read it back in the day. It's really not my thing, especially now with our loss. I can't read about a lot of stuff like that. So I just wanted to give you that idea.
Very effective, my dear Watson.
I believe he wrote 4 full-length novels and then over 50 short stories. You might want to look those up or see what your library has to see if you like the writing style, or if you have read it before, I just wanted to remind you of it being an option. One story that I love that I read for the first time last year is Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. May I suggest, if you have never read a Jane Austen, read this one during this season when it gets good and cozy and dark and it's a gothic-y day. The main heroine in this book believes that she's in a gothic novel. So it's very cute. If you know Jane Austen's humor ahead of time and you know she's kind of poking fun of the books of that day. I just love Austen's sarcasm that comes out in her stories. Love the heroine in this story, and she does end up in a gothic abbey. But I highly suggest this book. Take your time and I think you'll love it. Rebecca, it was written in the 30s and it's about a woman who marries a wealthy widower, but when they get back to his mansion in Cornwall called Manderley, the house is haunted supposedly by his former wife who passed away. It's just a real kind of creepy story, but in a good way.
Okay.
If you are into thrillers and you want to read some classic thrillers, then I could suggest Mary Shelley's 1818 version of Frankenstein, of course, about the man who creates a monster. Read it when I was young, not into that now, but technically gothic horror. And another original is the story of Jekyll and Hyde. I think a lawyer from London is investigating. There's just some strange occurrences between his old friend Jekyll and a criminal named Hyde. And if you don't know the premise of the story, I won't say anything else. I'm sure you do.
Wow, talk about Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Giving you some ideas. Speaking of grim and gruesome, Grimm's Fairy Tales is another idea. If you want to read some original text of some fairy tales, pretty crazy, and you're like, these are for kids, but yeah, this is a vintage copy. I'll try to link as much of this as I can in the description if you want to check some of these stories out. Just giving you some ideas. Another dark and moody classic to read during this season is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. Can we just take a moment to look at this beautiful book? One story from each of the Bronte sisters. Can you guess where this book came from? Can you guess, with the gold edges and the beautiful cover? If you say Barnes & Noble, collectibles, you are right. I do not like jewels or fancy things.
Yeah, you don't need all that fancy doohickery.
I like beautiful collectible books. Anyway, Jane Eyre, the story, our main character has a very bleak start. Her parents pass away. She becomes an orphan, has to go to her family. Her aunt is very mean to her. I will mention trigger-wise there is some abuse there. She's with them about a decade. And then she's sent to a boarding school, orphanage type situation. That's where I'm going to stop because I don't want any spoilers. Like I said, it's very dark and moody. Now, I will suggest the audiobook while you also look at it with your eyeballs. Otherwise, you may get kind of lost in the weeds. I think you would enjoy it on a dark and moody day, curled up with a blanket. Yeah. If you stayed with us this long, give me a coffee cup emoji in the comments so that I know, along with any books you want to add to your TBR. If you want more content like this, click the link in the description. You can check out my brand new Patreon group. We're having so much fun and we're saving you a big old comfy chair. I hope all this was helpful. Until next time.